Hello, everyone. Welcome to DADennial. I am your host, Mike Trank, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, owner of DADennial. Go to the website of DADennial.com, Instagram page, our YouTube channel. I just want to take a brief minute here to introduce our next guest for the interview series that we're going to be doing this season. Very lucky to have her name is Rebecca Miner. She's a licensed clinical social worker. I am lucky to know her going back to her days working in a mental health counseling agency about 8-9 years ago now. And it's great to see her achieve her goals and dreams as a friend, an ally, and an advocate for the trans community and LGBTQIA+. Her new book, Raising Trans Kids, comes out on 9/9/25. You can pre-order it now on our website, genderspecialist.com. And without further ado, I hope you enjoy this interview with Rebecca Miner. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to DADennial. Another episode, another week. Once again, I have my great friend Caesar. That would be the third Wheels of Steel here, the producer. And this week, I am proud to have on and thankful, and we were just saying here of, I haven't seen you or talked to you since 2019, which is insane. She is the gender specialist. Her name is Rebecca Miner. She's LICSW. She has some great articles. If you go to the genderspecialist.com, that's correct, I think so. Yes, you can see the articles that she's written for us. Saw you have written for New York Times. I saw you've written for a whole bunch of different publications, magazines, and news, and they're great stuff on transgender. She works with trans and gender nonconforming youth. The best thing, too, she also has a book you can now pre-order that will be coming out, I believe, in September. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and it is called Raising Trans Kids. So please go to her website. You can sign up for her emails, too. You can get a free copy of Gender and Sexuality, Glossary of Terms, which is great for dads and family, just to have a better understanding of today's day and age of being we are old and things change rapidly. So try to be a better person. Yes, you also have a guide for My Kid Just Came Out, which is fantastic on your website. So please go to genderspecialist.com, and proud to introduce Rebecca Miner. How are you, Rebecca?
Thanks so much, Mike. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes. Thank you for coming on. I am glad that we were able to connect and able to make this happen finally. So I'm very happy to have you on. I think we can start with we were just talking briefly, and I just kind of said it again. I'm still thinking about it as being, I guess, an older guy in his 40s now. And I think it's, for me personally, neurodivergent, but we're also kind of debating of is it old? Is it just being old? You're not purposely, you're trying your best. And my best example even recently is that there's someone my son plays golf with, and transitioning into Reagan, and he was walking through, and I said, "Oh, let him through." And as soon as I said it, I'm like, "Oh no!" And the dad was there, and I apologized. And I feel like that's the best thing I can do, right? There's not much more you can say or do besides apologizing. Just have the understanding that you're not trying. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you probably dealt with and heard kind of stories like this a lot. So for myself, Caesar, and dads, is there a template or something we should be doing or saying, I think we're on the right page here.
Absolutely. So there actually is a very handy flow chart if you're a visual learner. I can send you the link to if you want to include it in the show notes. But it's basically was this person misgendered? And then you follow from there. Was it my fault? If so, here's what I should do now. If it wasn't my fault, here's what I should do now. But truly, best practice is when you notice yourself make a mistake, because you will make mistakes because you're human. Catch yourself, apologize, fix the error, and move on, right? It doesn't need to be a big parade about it. You don't want to make it into a whole big show where then the person who was misgendered then feels like they have to comfort you for making the mistake that you made, right? It's like they shouldn't have to do any emotional labor because you screwed up. But instead you can just be like, oh, here's what I meant, repeat the sentence and just keep it moving from there. Apologies. So it doesn't need to be a huge deal. And the reality is a lot of times it's already incredibly uncomfortable for people to correct someone if they do make a mistake. So they might not even correct you in the first place. So you catching it really shows that you're making an effort.
That's very helpful and insightful. I appreciate that a lot. I guess I had some other questions too here, but I kind of open the floor, I guess, to you of what do you feel is the biggest topic? What is, like, there's so much going on in today's just, day to day of what we see in the news, what we hear. What do you feel like is the biggest thing that we need to understand or, feel what's going on in the transgender community, I guess?
It's a tough question because there is so much going on. I think I think the main thing is the amount of misinformation and disinformation that's being shared everywhere, which makes it really hard for people to know the truth and form reasonable judgments about things. Like, there's so much information being shared and a lot of it is just factually incorrect. Like, here's story time. I was on my way to the airport a couple months ago, and the driver who picked me up was listening to some kind of like sports talk radio. I don't know what it is because I don't care. Sorry, dads. But they were just like saying blatantly incorrect things about trans women in sports. And I was like, oh, am I going to say something? Do I not say anything? Like, I'm trying to get to the airport alive. I don't know this man. But we ended up having a good conversation when we were close enough that I was like, if I had to get out and walk, I could. And he admitted that he was like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I just form these opinions based off of what I hear on this show. Like, that's where he's getting his information. And so with the incorrect information he's getting, of course he's going to form certain opinions. And so I think part of what I see my work as is like helping draw some, like, create some clarity around what is actually true and not true, to kind of get rid of all of the stuff in the way and help people see that, like, if what you're hearing is that like people are doing gender surgeries on children in elementary school, that would be horrifying. The reality is that is never occurring, not once. But if that's what you're hearing, then of course you're going to be like, well, I don't know about sending my kid to school with those teachers who are going to do that to them. Like, and so it's really, really important that people are getting access to accurate information.
I think that last sentence is just probably the best advice of accurate information, right? Because there's so much information flooded from all sides, especially podcasts are included, not necessarily this one, but things out there in the social media zeitgeist there, what's popular, what people listen to. So that's great information. Do you have, I guess, to add to that, is there a place that you would recommend or you tell people to go to get the accurate information or get
my favorite news source is Erin in the Morning. She has a Substack, and that's like, I trust her to provide accurate and up-to-date information especially about anti-trans legislation and things like that. But she also does a really great job, like when the big report comes out or something, she will like tease it apart and be like, here's what's factually incorrect and here are the actual studies, and like backs it up with citations, and so it's legit. So yeah, that's my favorite. Otherwise, my blog is factual.
That's a good plug. Yeah, we'll put your information and Erin in the Morning on our website and on our Instagram too, so people can go to and get link to your feed and your great information and all that you write about. Which I was going through some last couple of days, and you have a lot of good detailed information and stuff that, even as a therapist myself, that we're still always learning and understanding and growing as people.
Yeah, and I try to make it as like accessible as possible. Like, I could go on forever and ever and ever about these subjects, but I'm like, let's keep this to a tight 800 words. Like, parents are busy. So, it's like a type 5.
Yeah. I gotcha. I know what that means. Yeah, that's for comedy. I feel like we should segue for a second before we get into your book. I feel like all this, it kind of like builds up and pen up feelings and frustration. So we always do a segment every week about letting it out now, right? And I feel like there's a lot of let it out nows that can be thought about and said. And so it's not just good things or bad things. It could be whatever's on your mind. So with that being said, do you have a let it out now, a lion as we call it, a roar? It can literally be a roar too. That's what I champion too. Like, if you don't have anything to say, just literally sit in your car and just let it out like a lion, and or a three-legged cat, like I like to do. It's got some damage. It's got that little.
She's been through a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got some PTSD every time it sees a mouse. It was.
Of course.
It was long.
Oh my God.
Bad year in 2020. But yes, do you know where that came about? I forget her name now. I have to look it up. It was a licensed therapist that was up in Beverly, Mass. That over COVID, that she had women meeting at the different parks in Beverly and Peabody and Salem, just to go a scream, just to get it out, just to have a place. I was like, it's for mom to get out. I'm like, wait a minute, what about dads?
Yeah,
so that's where this all kind of came
dads
about.
Dads could use a good scream. Yeah,
dads need to roar. Need to feel like like a lion resembles like what that image stereotype in a large degree, but using an acronym for it, using something that can be of like, let's let it out, let's let out our feelings, let's just have a 2 minute break. But yeah, I didn't know if you knew the backstory. I actually saw her on CNN once and talking about it.
No, I didn't.
I won't be on CNN. I guess it was back in 2020, 2021.
I won't be on CNN.
Oh, you will. I'm sure you will with the book coming out.
Oh yeah, I was laughing at you wanting to be on CNN, but.
Well, that's why I got Blazers of the Week.
I might be on CNN for the wrong reasons, but we'll see. Hopefully not CNN. Fox, I have a feeling I'm going to make it onto, but not for the reasons I'm dying to. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I could be let it out now.
No kidding. Yeah. One of my let it out nows is that I have to get a security system because I'm writing a book that I know is meaningful but could put a target on my back. But my real let it out now is that it's going to be kind of nerdy, but it's that rapid onset gender dysphoria is not a thing. And so the latest report that came out, I'll explain. The latest report that came out that kind of mimicked the Cass report in England that just came out in the US, trying to say that pediatric gender affirming care is flawed and wrong. One of the theories that they lean on is a theory that has been debunked. It is just wrong. And it's been taken out of publication, but it doesn't matter because people took that theory and ran with it. So the idea being that basically you can catch transness, like you would catch a virus, like it's in the water or you get it from your group of friends. And there is a reality that parents will sometimes come to me and be like, well, I'm a little spooked. I got to be honest with you. I'm not trying to sound whatever, but my kid, all their friends are trans. So is it possible that that's where they're getting this from? The reality is that youth who are struggling find each other, right? They don't catch being trans from each other. They find community where they feel safe. But this researcher, Lisa Littman, did a paper about rapid onset gender dysphoria where she used data using the same modalities you would use to study contagion, like COVID, but around gender identity, and used pull quotes from parents on conservative and anti-trans sites as her reasoning behind it. And it got published in Brown's Journal, and then it got pulled from publication. But between when it was up and got pulled, organizations went and ran with it. So I just want people to know you can't catch transness. And if you hear of rapid onset gender dysphoria, which sounds like science, it's not. It's not in the DSM. It's not a diagnosis. And do not believe it.
That's very important. I guess hearing that just kind of reminds me of, I feel like it's trans is what gay was to me, right? Of like hearing of like that you could spread it, you could catch it. I feel like it's like shifted now of like it's not, you know, they're not going after gay as much now. Here's the new thing that is creating these quote unquote research and you know, endangering people like you even, right? That are pushing back, that are trying to help out people that are marginalized, and you know, that you have to get a security system. That's that real part. I feel like that is not said enough or not understood enough of, no, these are real people on both sides, right? And in your case of you're trying to debunk and also, you know, put forward a positive agenda, positive, you know, way of working with the community, with how you kind of work with it as parents and therapists. And yeah, it's tragic and difficult to hear, but yeah, I think that's a great information. We can go 180 now. My let it out now.
Let's do it.
We're gonna go from transgender to Bob's Burger, huh? How about that? No.
Hey, they have some trans themes on that show.
They do. It is a moving forward. Mine was just of a positive thought of the episode I saw last night. Was a new one, and it was the family going for a walk, and they walk on the boardwalk, and Linda gets new shoes and doesn't work out, but it was kind of making me think. And then there's a little catchy clip at the end, and I was looking for it because I wanted to play it and I can't find it yet. It just, you know, had like a 70s beat to it about family walking, and I was planning on playing it and singing it to my kids this weekend when we go for a walk, because we're lucky enough to have a little greenway path that goes a couple miles all around town here. So trying to get them out and go for a scooter ride, and to do something like that, I feel like was a good thing of like, oh, all right, you know, just the positive thinking, right? You don't share stuff like that. I say it because of it's a good thing, but sometimes just hearing it out loud helps you understand of, all right, your mind's working, your mind's being positive, it's being productive, it's showing the love that I have for my family, and then spending time with my kids and trying to think of something positive, right? Because I can't tell you how many times my 8-year-old says, I'm bored. I'm bored.
God.
I'm like, you say you're bored one more time.
Right.
Yeah, Dad's going for a long walk up a short pier.
Right. I'm going for a walk, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, not the 1970s walk where Dad would go for a pack of smokes and a carton of milk and show up at high school graduation. That's not that walk, but a short walk, a nice fun walk with the family. Where I'll give a little side note too of, so the kids they just have regular scooters they just use, and they're good at it. And in my advanced age, like, one thing I've never learned how to do is ride a scooter. Get the laughs out now. But yes, I don't have one yet.
I'm really curious about where this is going. Honestly, that's why I'm holding.
This is going of like the fact that Daddy wants to get. Well, I'm thinking of my kid's dad. Dad wants to get a electric scooter now, you know, the e-scooter thing, so I can learn how to do it with, you know, I can get the kids from school. I've seen a few dads actually zipping around, you know, carpool line there when I pick up the kids, and yeah, it looks exciting. You know, I feel like here's a new adventure. I mean, I definitely will need the knee pads, the elbow pads. I'm definitely gonna fall. That's definitely gonna need like a padded area.
I'm just picturing you on a Segway.
I was too scared. I've always wanted to try one.
Hoverboard. Oh my god.
No, you always want to try, like, in Boston was the Segway, right? It was like the thing, but
I think I remember you wanting to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fat and ambitious. It's a great trait. Two great traits. But do you remember how many stories there were in the Segways that they would just stop, like the battery would just die, and then the people just fall forward and hit their heads or just fall over? I mean, that's a lot of geriatrics, just, you know, going down Bunker Hill. That's not
serious liability.
That's not good at all.
No.
All right. I'll give you one more, not let it out now, but I think I didn't say it yet. So last time I had an interview, I had a blue blazer, and I wanted to kind of incorporate looking classy for the show nowadays. Whatever that seems like anymore. I don't know what classy is after 2020. Just, that's a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
And I go through my closet, and all it is because I never wear suits. I never, you know, need that or blazers, but just of like the weddings I've been in, right? Of like, I never wear these suits. I never wear these blazers. So I just picked one out. I got a few of these. I'm like, well, I'm just going to start wearing them on the podcast, you know, maybe Put them on eBay or something. You still has the pocket square. I'll keep that in there. A little flash of color, a little flare.
I need to know
Caesar,
this. Are you thinking
that's for you, Caesar.
You'll put it on eBay because people will want to purchase it?
No, I just want to put it on
eBay.
Because of the show?
Oh, okay.
I mean, in
I was
a
like,
dream
I love
world,
that.
sure.
Do you have that kind of audience?
No, it's a me, myself, and I kind of audience.
I mean, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, fake it till you make it, right? That's kind of the mantra of the show in my life so far.
Yeah, maybe if you sign the pocket square.
I've always wondered, and this kind of touches on it, and maybe you'll experience this too with your book, which we're going to talk about in a minute here. So, for people that don't know of, right, I did stand-up comedy for a while in 2007, 2008 in Tampa. I still have the poster. It says I made it to the finals of Tampa's Funniest. Didn't make any money, but there's a little headshot of me, and I'm like, point to the kids of like, look what Daddy did. Didn't amount to much, but hey, I digress. So I would sign. People would ask like after shows to sign their tickets or sign a piece of paper, and then when I wrote Howl's Worst Wednesday in 2018, I had a few book signings, and I signed some books. So I always wonder, like, right, when you're out of sight, out of mind, the people like look through their stuff of like, who the heck is Mike Trank? Like, why did I save this for the last 12 years? Like, this guy wrote this book, and like this book, like, I don't even remember like that I was just in the bookstore and I just happened to buy it accidentally with his signature. Like, because I think about that, right? Of like, I know pretty much every autograph that I have, but there's a couple random ones from a minor league baseball game or something as a kid or something like that. I'm like, why have I held on to this for 25, 30 years?
Something about
like, even
signature.
trying to remember it, right?
Yeah.
Kind of brings back to the moment. So maybe, hopefully, if anyone listens or anyone's like, yeah, put that on eBay. Like, here, if you have like a signature from 2007 from a comedy show I did, maybe that'll get 50 cents. I'd love to see what it would go on for eBay. Maybe
at least tag you.
Yeah, maybe it's more of a challenge of like, can I get more than like a penny? That's we start the auction off at a penny. If I get two, that's amazing. It. There's a party. There's a celebration going on.
Yeah.
So, with that being all said there and all the funniness, how or what inspired you? What made you want to write a book?
Well, after session after session after session of sitting with parents and answering what felt like the same questions, I was like, God, I should really write this down. Like, hasn't anyone written a book? And I looked, and there are some, and some of them are fantastic. A lot of them are very clinical. So they feel like they're written more for therapists or educators, and not necessarily written in a way that feels accessible to a parent or to someone who, as you identify as an old guy, like who's going to pick that up and not feel alienated by some of the language and jargon in it. Right. So I wanted to write one that was really shaped around. So each chapter is based on the questions that keep parents up at night, so that you don't have to sit down and read the book cover to cover. You may never read the whole book, depending. But if you're having a moment where you're like, oh my God, is my kid ever going to find love? Or like, are they ever going to have a job? Or will I ever have grandkids? Like, you can flip to that chapter and get some accurate information and hopefully leave with a more positive affirmation at the end.
That's great. What are some of, I think you're just kind of touching on some of those questions, but is there like a question that stands out that you feel like this book will answer that question for this kind of group of parents, like a question that you would get a lot, or kind of a theme or something that you feel like this answers that I get a lot of?
I mean, some of the ones that I think are really powerful are like the, if they're neurodivergent, can they know? That's a question I get a lot of, families of autistic, more autistic than ADHDers, but where parents are like, does this kid really know their identity in this way? And like, should we really proceed with what we know, could be significant medical care down the line if we're not sure that this is who they are, especially if, they have sometimes struggles with activities of daily living. Like, what makes you think they're going to be able to keep up with their hormone treatments? And the reality is that, like, quite simply, being autistic does not preclude you from knowing who you are.
Yes.
So it sometimes harder to figure out, and how to communicate that to the people in your life can present different challenges. And certainly for neurodivergent youth, especially those with sensory issues, being trans can be really tricky, because sometimes it's like, I want to wear a binder because my chest really bothers me, but the experience of wearing a super tight thing around my ribs all day also feels awful. So do I prioritize my gender affirming needs, or do I prioritize my sensory needs? And is it possible to have it all?
No, it's a big, I mean, my oldest is on the spectrum, and right, that sensory, that feeling of how clothes or how things feel is bigger than anything else. Doesn't matter the colors or whatever else, but if it feels or a tag, or
right, I was gonna say the tag will get you.
Wanting it tight. I mean, it could just be like needing tighter clothes, needing to feel a certain way to feel, okay. Right? It's a very big thing, the tactile, right, of touching, feeling. So so
that's a big one. I think the fertility one is another really big one for parents, where they're like, does this mean, I'll never have grandkids, or my kid will never be able to have kids? And the reality is lots of people still have kids in lots of different ways. And there are plenty of cisgender people who struggle to have kids. And, that gets left out of the conversation a lot, when it's just, the assumption is like, if we do this, then that's over. When in fact, there are ways to address that. And again, another area where people just don't have a lot of education, and rightfully so. Like, this was not included in, and that's why the subtitle of the book is What to Expect When You Weren't Expecting This. Is like, a lot of parents read that What to Expect When You're Expecting book. This shit wasn't in it.
Right.
It was not in there. There was no chapter. So, I
think that's clever. Yeah, it's a clever way of kind of helping people to, just like makes it feel, maybe I'm thinking like psychological sense, of just that feeling, right? Of like, here's something that feels, something that's a known entity, something that, right, I've read that before, so maybe that is similar to that kind of putting it together there. So that's a great way of kind of doing that, right? Because it is that hurdle almost of like, if it feels and looks and seems too overbearing, or like, this is for like, the people that are psychologists or therapists, that then they're not going to go for it. But of having just how it looks, how it feels, how it sounds, that can be a great way of, in a sense, maybe melting the ice a little bit, of like, it's more able to kind of something I can relate to, I can read, and it's, talking to me, not just talking to a board of directors, so to speak.
Totally.
And the name of the book is Raising Trans Kids.
Yeah.
And you can go to your website, you can pre-order it now. So when does that officially come out? Or
it comes out on September 9th. Yeah.
Mark your dates. Do you have any doing a signing or doing anything like?
Yeah, the launch party is the next day on the 10th. And then I'm lining up a number of signings and things from there. So that's exciting.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can come down here and push some boundaries. I think where we live, me and Caesar, that it's definitely pockets, right? Of like where I live is very diverse, people from all over California, New York, and everything. But you don't have to go far to go back, so to speak.
Yep.
So it's definitely of working towards it, right? Of trying to move forward, trying to continue to grow, continue to build down here too is important for sure, especially when you get the pushback in places like this. So you need to stand up and stand firm and forward there to help, right? Kind of be there for the cause, no matter what age, no matter, it's just an important thing for sure.
Totally. One of the cooler things I've gotten to do in the last couple of years is I actually run a group for grandparents of trans kids. And it originally started as a group for Jewish grandparents, which was amazing. It's still amazing, but there's something particularly iconic about having a bunch of 70, 80, and 90-year-old bubbies on Zoom.
A lot of that. I'll just
Oh, so much. The angles are incredible. The sounds, they forget to mute themselves. They yell at their
the velour
husbands.
sweatpants, I'm sure. The velour
the
matching
soup.
tops and bottom. Oh,
Yeah.
that's slurp.
But I think about they live all over the country, and some of them live in North Carolina and have gotten really involved in their advocacy work and activism. And it's really, really cool to see. Like, I think, and that's why I laugh when you're like, as an old guy, like, I'm going to say the wrong thing. And like, these folks are actually notably older than you. And they still, they do say the wrong thing sometimes, but they keep coming month after month to learn and try to be better because they love their grandkids. And I think at the end of the day, like I said earlier, you're going to make mistakes, but like making the effort is what makes a huge difference. And I think people get scared of saying the wrong thing. And so then they just say nothing.
Right.
And so I think it's better to show up, even if it's imperfectly, than to stay disconnected.
Right. And I may say I'm old, but I'm pretty sure me and the 80-year-olds are doing the same thing. We had a schwitz in the morning. We were trying on blazers.
You do have similar
We went
patterns.
for a walk with the Crocs. We found out it wasn't garbage day because Memorial Day got off. Talked to the neighbor. Got the mail.
Absolutely.
Very similar lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, earlier you said something similar to an 83-year-old I was talking to yesterday who was like, gay is good these days. Gay is good. And she was like, in my day, that was the thing. Now who cares? And that's been a funny thing.
I don't know if I came across like that, but
No, you didn't. That's how she sounded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The sentiment was there. Yeah.
Yes, my brain goes right back to 1955.
May I ask you, so these grandparents that you're seeing, they have grandchildren, I would imagine, that brought you to the group. And they love their grandkids so much that they want to be inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
What is
the parents were like, you suck at this and you need to go to this group.
Totally get that. So what is usually the age group of the child where they get to see you? Like, what's the average usually?
Oh, who I actually see personally for therapy?
No, well, just for this specific topic, the average age of the child where they have to have these discussions with their parents and grandparents.
So for the grandparent group, we've got grandparents of kids who are as young as 3 or 4, all the way through teens and young adults. Some of them are out of college at this point. For therapy, I typically see 12 and up. Is what I tend to do, though I've seen kids younger than that over the years for sure. And that's another hot button issue of like, how young is too young? Can kids really know? The reality is research shows that as young as 3 years old, children are able to identify their gender. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. But in the grandparent group, it's a nice mix. So some of the ones with older grandkids can kind of give advice to the other ones. Some of them didn't know until more recently. Whereas some of them are like, kid came out that way. Like there was no question about it. So yeah.
So, and
that's great.
When that happens, when you have the kids in therapy and you're dealing with the grandparents, is there a pattern that you recognize amongst most of the people that you see? Do you see similar patterns, kind of repetitive things that grandparents are saying, or parents are saying, or even the children as they're developing?
Definitely. And that's really part of why I wrote the book, because after a while I was like, wow, some of these patterns are undeniable, and some of the kind of like hurdles people keep coming up against at different ages or different points in development then become topics of like, oh, now we've reached the age where we need to talk about sleepovers. Like, how do we deal with sleepovers? Do we disclose? Do we not disclose? Do we need to tell the other family? Or are we like outing our kid if we do that? But is it not like all these questions start to come up. When is it appropriate to pursue medical treatment? Do we need to? Do we not want to? Like so many kind of stops along the way, or even like our kids play outside in the neighborhood and it's obvious that now one of them has short hair and is dressing really differently. Like, should we notify our neighbors in some way or just kind of hope for the best? And like a lot of this depends on where folks live and how they think it's going to be kind of received. But definitely there are definitely patterns to people's experiences. But the sad part of it is that they often feel very alone. Because they're like, we're the only ones in our neighborhood, or we're the only ones in our school, or whatever. And the reality is that's probably not true. But families aren't necessarily talking about it because there's a lot of fear and shame, especially for parents who just are afraid of not having the answers. I think there's a lot of pressure to like to know what to do. And then also what that means about you as parents.
Yeah, I mean, I could feel of just feeling that protection as a parent, right? Of like, you know, you're wanting to protect your kid and not get hurt, but in a sense, you are even hurting them because you're trying to protect them, but you're isolating them and making them maybe feel, you know, question more or have more thoughts or beliefs that aren't positive because they don't, you know, feel like mom and dad maybe you're supporting them because they're trying to isolate them. I mean, that's great that you have groups like that you don't even really think about that, especially with the grandparents being involved in families like that, right? I think that's fantastic to have that subgroup kind of come in and give so much help and support to the cause.
It's been really fun. I love their questions. They crack me up too. You know, there's not a lot of filter, so we just go there.
Can you give us an example of a question that cracked you up?
Well, I mean, they get really busy with body parts. So, you know, they're like, so, you know, she's a girl, but like, is it okay that she has a penis? And I'm like, yeah, some girls have penises. But, you know, for them, they're just like, generationally, that's not something they would have talked about at all. And certainly there's concern about what that will mean for them in the future. They have a lot of questions about like who they'll date, whether they'll, you know, if they're trans now, does that mean they're gay? Like if they were born or, you know, assigned a certain sex at birth, then will they automatically be attracted to one gender or another? And the reality is like, we don't know any of that. And so we just kind of have to roll with it and see who they become over time. Yeah. Just like you would with any other kid. But yeah.
What about talking about isolation there? I know you run groups. Do you do things or do you hear things of like putting on Zoom, like trying to have groups or things like that to prevent isolation? Is there
Definitely.
Resources out there?
Yeah. I mean, I've run a group for trans teens for probably 6 years now. That's been going strong every week, which is awesome. I know there are different organizations, you know, varying states and places that offer it. And certainly during the pandemic, I tried to do more of that too, because I was like, these kids are like triple isolated now. And then PFLAG offers a lot of groups for parents. You know, it used to be, PFLAG was originally created for parents and families of lesbians and gays was what the acronym stood for. But now they have groups for parents of trans youth as well. And they also have a grandparent group. And those are free. So they're available and accessible to folks. Some parents don't want to go to them. You know, I get pushback from folks sometimes. They're afraid they're going to see somebody they know. They don't want to be in a group. They're like, this is my kid's thing. But the reality is like, it affects the whole family. And I actually think it's really important to connect so that you don't feel isolated. Like before we got on, I was saying there's a dad's group that's forming here in the Boston area, where, you know, rather than going to like a clinical setting where they all sit in a circle of chairs and it feels really formal, they go and grab beers and just like talk about what it's like to be dads of trans kids. And I think that makes it more accessible and feel welcoming, especially to dads who might be earlier in their process of acceptance or just like not totally sure about whether or not they want to go to a support group of any kind, you know, especially if they've never done therapy. But yeah.
Oh, that's great. That was a great resource. Go ahead.
One thing that I think is interesting that I've seen with dads is, first of all, some people assume that dads are going to be the ones that are not affirming. And I'd like to shut that down. I should have made that my lion.
Yeah, you can have 2 lions, you know.
This is my second lion, or my third. I don't know. I'm full of lions. I've worked with some amazing dads. And I think the reality is that sometimes, you know, like anything, we have stereotypes and they're not always helpful, and they're not always accurate. And I've seen a lot more couples who I've worked with over the years where the birthing parent, who is often the mom, is the one who is not as comfortable with the transition and the change and carries a lot more of the grief and really resistance to moving forward. And sometimes the dads are just like, this is it, hun. Like, we love our kids, so just like get in the game.
Get on board. Yeah.
Get on board. And so I just want to like shout out to the dads that, you know, maybe don't get it all, but are showing up and loving their kids anyway. I think there's something funny that happens sometimes with dads where they'll ask me like, what do I do with them now? Like, they're like, I knew the rules before. Like, if I had a boy, we did boy stuff. And they're like, can we still do boy stuff? Like, if she still wants to go fishing, is that cool? Or am I like, should I not do that? Like, now I have to learn girl dad shit. Like, how does this work? And I think it's all really beautiful, actually. Like, there's just this, they just want to connect. And the reality is like, activities don't have genders. So you can do what you like and what your kid likes.
For guys, we kind of have that thing in our mind of like, all right, if it's this, then this is what we do. And I think, you know, not to go back to my preamble here of what DADennial is, but like that's what we're about, is trying to create that template, right? Because guys kind of go with that mindset of like, all right, this is what's in front of me, this is what I'm supposed to do. So trying to like, it can seem weird and blurry at first of like, so I still go fishing? Okay. Like, right. Yeah, that's normal. It's fine. It's almost that affirmation. And I think kind of going back to what you were saying too about the dad aspect of it, and I appreciate you saying shout out, so that's for old dads, so now we all get that. But the societal part of it, and even though what you're saying is like, right, it's not the same topic, but I could feel it and understand it of, I think you've heard me say this before years ago of, I was a stay-at-home dad, so taking my oldest son to coffee shops or grocery stores, whatever I needed to do, I would get like, oh, it's nice you took a day off, or like, oh, that's nice that, you know, that you're able to do that. Like, no, this is my everyday. This is right. I'm the mom and the dad for the next 7 hours. So like it or not.
Like, look at you babysitting, and you're like, no, that's my kid.
Right. So the guys, still that societal aspect, that bigger piece of like, right, it doesn't matter what is going on in terms of like, if it's transgender, if it's you know, autism, if it's neurodivergency, it's still those stereotypes that are, I think, stuck. And I think I've always felt we got to a point and then we just kind of stopped. I feel like in society of, you know, that guys, we still need that affirmation. We still need that growth and understanding of, we had the Me Too movement years back now, and we kind of, you know, not just weeded out the bad people in society. That was the goal. No, that was the goal. Like, right, this is like not appropriate. This is not the world that we want to live in and continue to live in. And that was accepted. And then we kind of got to this place of like, all right, so what is accepted, right? I don't think we ever gotten to that next step of, so what is that template? What is that idea of being a dad, being a, you know, a man?
Yeah.
You know, like, right, even that image of a lion is like, gives that manly image, but it can be softer too of, you're learning how to let it out. You're learning how to breathe. You're learning how to, you know, it doesn't have to be negative of, yeah, what am I going to let out? Oh, it can just be something happy or silly or, you know, whatever it is, right? Of just learning and understanding yourself and affirmation. And I see that a lot in guys, and working with this project too of, you know, just understanding themselves, understanding of what worked even 10, 15 years ago doesn't work today.
Yes.
And I think there's so much information and so much guidance. And not saying that women have it easy, but you have a lot more guidance. I feel like there's a lot more that understanding of support is needed and wanted, whether it's in being a mom, whether it's, you know, if you're at a
and there's people to talk to.
Right. There's always that support all around. So, right, even that anomaly now of like, hey, look, there's trans dads going out for beers. Oh, here's like, you know, that's a thing of like, here we go, we're starting something. So that's good to hear, and it's good to understand and good to talk about. Of right, it's that bigger picture. This is one hot button issue that we're talking about, and that you know are great at helping parents and grandparents understand and learn, and to learn how to be comfortable, learn how to like adapt and kind of help out their children in this day and age. And also that bigger picture of that specifically, right? You got to go in with that image and thought of they're not going to get it. Oh boy, here we go. Right. Now we're going to talk to a guy's guy. Mm-hmm. But I think as you've experienced and seen is the neurodivergent world I live in on a regular basis, that, you know, there are a lot of guys that even if sometimes I don't necessarily like see it on the outside, there's so many that want to kind of get there and learn to understand. It's just tough because there isn't that support or that ability to kind of give that. So that's hopefully, you know, between going out for beers or podcast or whatever, you know, that's hopefully what I'll continue to build too, and continue to build that society and place to kind of give it. And me and Caesar have actually gone to the Home Dad conference there a couple of years ago, and I got to speak at it. And that was fascinating. I'm just seeing rooms full of just stay-at-home dads and what their lives were like, and that feeling of isolation and that feeling of loneliness was just so common, right? Of like, they at least knew of like they had this one place they could go to once a year, and they had some of these people have known each other for 10, 15, 20 years. Like this was their one time a year,
and they keep coming back.
They had a vacation from the kids. So right. It's just, like, great to see. Of like, here's that
those
new
dads
idea,
got wild.
Of, I mean, me and Caesar were in bed by 9, but you know.
But that, like, what you're speaking to, I think, is one of the coolest things about the impact of transition on a family too. Is like, it's an invitation to everyone else to get curious about the ways in which some of our ideas around gender are actually really boxing us in or limiting us. Like her dads who are maybe, you know, more of a guy's guy, to be like, oh, I could paint my nails with my kid because that's fun. And like, who cares? Like, that's not going to hurt anybody. And like, maybe we could loosen up a little bit and see what that's like, and start to talk more.
Velour jumpsuits and have schwitz together, and you know.
Listen, I know all you want is a velour jumpsuit.
If all we could all be 80-year-old grandparents, I feel like that just fast forward to that and just.
I think you should get a DADennial velour suit.
If I get on, maybe
it says DADennial across the butt.
Yeah, like we're like
the juicy ones.
Delicious, yeah. If you're a big boy,
it's
you
got
got
the letters,
full Scrabble board. Yeah. You got 50 points. The bigger the ass, the bigger the points. That's the logo. That's where it is. Oh man. We end the show.
So what we're all speaking to really is like even your communities, the communities that you're starting is and the questions you get from the parents and grandparents are really centered around social acceptance.
Yes.
Like
it's
that's
all about belonging.
Biggest thing, the belonging. Even the dads, you know, the dads having beers, you know, they break down the walls and increase their vulnerability to have these constructive conversations with each other to, again, achieve that social acceptance.
I guess I kind of got one question, kind of sort of, and Caesar, you're kind of to you too, and Rebecca, that cultural aspect, right? Of, I don't know what you see, Rebecca, and what you kind of see too, of, right? I always feel like as a therapist, working with people all over, you know, different, that it was always kind of more difficult of, right, that acceptance of LGBTQ plus identity. And I feel like, you know, talking about guys kind of coming along, I feel like that cultural aspect too is difficult to come along. I don't know if you've seen or what your experiences are, if you've seen anything or things that have helped or things that are, you know, just kind of standing in the way still in different communities that you see.
Did you want me to answer that first?
Yeah. Well, I was just kind of
I'm curious
on the ground floor and what Rebecca sees too. I'm sure you've seen they had some parents, grandparents too. So I didn't know. Just kind of curious of the cultural aspect. I was kind of think of that too, that bigger global picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think the like there are still very strongly like ingrained ideas around like more machismo culture that I think is still really challenging and limiting. And same with some, Black masculinity as well. I think because of where I'm located and who happens to hire me, I tend to see more white liberal families in progressive area. So I'm not as exposed to those realities, but certainly in the research I've done and in like, just witnessing stories and experiences, those things are still very much alive and well. And I think generationally, we're moving away from them with each generation a little bit, but we're still, definitely. And even Italian, like there are ingrained beliefs around what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. And it's interesting, even like an Indian family I'm working with, they were like, we're not worried about this with our parents because when the kid was like really little, because all babies are dressed the same regardless of gender. But now that they're like 7, 8 years old, that's starting to come to a place where it's like, okay, now how do we dress them if we're going to be visiting family in India? Like how do we navigate this?
Interesting.
Yeah. Caesar, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
So it's very similar to what you just said. I know the Latino culture, Black culture, it's that machismo like you mentioned, it's huge. You almost kind of feel shame for the child, and I've seen that with many families. In Arab culture, it's some of them say it doesn't exist.
Right.
They'll go, homosexuality is not a thing. We don't have that here in X country in the Middle East. It's completely denied, and mathematically, it doesn't even seem that would be possible when you think about it. Logically, like what you're saying is nonsense. But yeah, it's still very that machismo that we're kind of blocking growth in a way. It's still very prevalent in cultures all over the place. And I think part of that is a lot of that is just fear. Part of it is fear to kind of break out and get out of the norms. And the other part could be just faith-based.
Certainly. Thank you for bringing that up.
I didn't want to go too deep into that, but it could be a huge foundation.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think there is a reality to that also being contributed to by women as well, which not everybody likes to acknowledge. I think men are afraid to break out of it, but women are also contributing to men feeling stuck in it too.
Indeed, yes.
Like there's this idea of like, oh, I want a man who can like express himself, but then it's like, don't cry, like get it together, be a real man. And you're like, hang on, I thought I'm getting mixed messages here.
That's exactly it. You hear a lot of wives, a lot of women that say they want something else or something. They want something. They have a definition in their mind of what a man is supposed to be. It could be their dad, which was a generation ago.
Yes.
And you want to be vulnerable, and you can't, because it's just not even accepted in your household. There's a reason why women sometimes go against their own interests. There's just very similar reason.
I'll give a little quick thing. What you're just saying there is to lighten the humor here, so to speak. There's a comedian called Bill Burr, and his latest special that I was watching called The Drop Dead Years, where he talks about him always kind of he's from Boston, so he always has this rage and always like this frustration and anger. And now he's in his 50s and he's seeing people pass, and he's like going to therapy and he's trying to get help and trying to be more calm and just be a better person. And he says this little clip where he talks about, he comes home and he's just upset and he's crying, and he knows it's like just stuff from the past that he's dealing with and working with. And his wife comes over to him and is like, are you okay? And he's like, it's just some stuff in the past. Like it's I'm just working through it. And she's like, oh, okay. And like went in the other room. He's like, if I knew this for 25 years of like, that's all I had to say to you of like, because it's like almost of like that she didn't know, like, right. And like I've heard that and experienced that too of like, oh, there's a guy crying and being vulnerable, like opening up of like, it's just something I'm dealing with of like, you're not going to come over, give a hug, or like, it's all right. It's like, oh, all right. you do that. I'm gonna go in the other room. Like, it's almost that freeze of like that learned behavior, right? And that can happen to both sides, male and female. Of okay, I know, the guy knows of like, well, if you're, being upset and something's going on, my natural instinct is like to go over, like, hold you, ask you what's wrong, what can I do, want to talk, I want to talk, can I get you something? And like, right, of like the other side of like, it's flipped of like, oh, I didn't know. So I could just walked out of the room for the last 25 years. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was an option.
I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah. I didn't know that was something I could do. It's like, oh, all right, good to know. So I think, and adjust and giving him credit for a great bit there of where we are in life in this stage. But I wanted to just kind of wrap up here too of something that we like to do in fun to kind of lighten up the mood here, because at the end of every show or every night, we always probably need a snack, right? Especially a neurodivergent boy like myself, that likes to enjoy snacks. So I've been putting up some of my snacks. I feel like we're gonna make a what you snacking on cookbook at the end here, because
I love that.
I feel if I've been recording it for years, I already have like a 500-page book, but I'm starting now. So
never too late.
What is your guilty pleasure or something that is your go-to snack? Could be
lately or always?
It's your choice, dealer's choice.
Okay.
When nobody's looking and nobody knows that you're snacking on something, what are you snacking
on? I'm dipping something in Nutella. Usually.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Like,
I like that
animal crackers.
Mm-hmm.
In Nutella, great. Mm-hmm. Strawberries, also great.
Mm-hmm.
How big is the tub of Nutella you're dipping it in?
Big.
I was gonna say, shout out to Costco, the 2-pack.
I was gonna say the big one. Yeah.
The 2-pack, the one you gotta use 2 hands to bring it in.
And,
it's a 2-pack.
And if you don't have anything to dip, you just use a spoon, just straight spoon. Yeah.
The one I most enjoyed lately was a Rice Krispie treat in the middle with strawberries cut up, some Cool Whip, and some chocolate chips on top.
Lovely. Can't go wrong.
That was just a random of like, I don't know what to eat, but all of this looks fantastic all at once. I had a sweet attack there. So that was mine of the week that I was, well, I mean, I don't think the doctor's gonna love that, or when the kids come, I'm like, why are there no more Rice Krispie treats? Why is Dad taking all our snacks again?
Dad had a moment.
Yeah, that's why Mom went shopping this past week and like, oh, there's celery sticks again. Fantastic. All right.
Fantastic.
So we'll see what I can make up with celery sticks. That'll be on Instagram this week if you want to go check that out.
Do things with celery sticks for sure. For sure. Dress them up.
Nutella. I'm gonna try that with Nutella. That's what I'm gonna try this week.
It'll balance it out.
It'll be a sad face tear. Like, oh, it tastes so good, but so bad. It's so crunchy.
So crunchy.
Yeah, so crunchy and so veggie, and yet
maybe
so
you just have a bite of the celery and then you wash it down with some Nutella. Like maybe not together.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know.
That's what the pocket square is for. I could just take it off and just clean up.
Exactly. I'm also on a cottage cheese kick, but I felt like that wasn't as cool.
It doesn't have to be cool. It's your thing,
I know. But you can dress her up and down. It's like a little, it could be savory, it could be sweet.
That's where I get into it. If you start putting like pineapples and peaches stuff in your cottage cheese, like no, that's
a no.
It's different lanes, That's
okay.
Cottage cheese goes with the schvitz, getting the mail.
Don't tell me how to have my cottage cheese.
I'm not telling you. Like, you have your cottage cheese how you want. Listen, I see people eat cottage cheese all the time, but I'm like, I can just have cottage cheese. Like, it's just one of those things of like I have to focus and eat it because it's not. For me personally, it's not my favorite thing to eat, but all right.
It's probably a texture thing, right?
I just eat it is.
Yeah.
Sure it is. But yes, I have to stare at it and just eat it and get it done with. Like I don't. It's not a playful. It's not an experience where I'm going to put stuff on it and like decorate it. Like it's like it's a task. It's a check off the box of like, all right, I did that today. I ate cottage cheese. on the celery and Nutella for dessert.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Well, I tagged the cottage cheese company I like on Instagram. I'm hoping they'll notice and we can maybe get a collab going.
Oh my god. Can I just be on the set for that cottage cheese? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be on the set for that.
I'm here for the unhinged collab. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Rebecca Miner, the gender specialist. You can go to her website, genderspecialist.com. As we said, pre-order her book called Raising Trans Kids. Once again, almost I can't look at my own spelling anymore. It is getting worse every day. Raising Trans Kids is what the book is called. Please pre-order it now. Go to her website, and you can sign up for emails where you get a lot of great information from her. If you're a grandparent, check out her grandparent groups there. I think that was one of the highlights of this episode, and I didn't even think of that group and that subsect of people of like being so wanting to be a part of it, and so wanting to kind of like embrace it, not just for themselves, but bring it out there to the community too, and kind of push it forward, which is fantastic. I feel like sometimes what we hear of the boomer type culture that wouldn't be the case. So it's good to hear a positive side of it, and a positive that no, they're still active in the community, they're still pushing forward, people's rights, and that's fantastic to hear and to see. So yes, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be coming out soon. And thank you again, Rebecca Miner. Get her book.
Thank you so
Go
much.
to her website. Thank you. Once again, I wanted to thank Rebecca Miner. That was a great guest, a great interview. We went over some great topics and understanding, and she helped us a lot, helped me a lot. Please go to her website, thegenderspecialist.com. She has a guide for kids just came out. Great resource for families. She also has a brand new book coming out. You can pre-order it now on her website. September 9th it comes out. We're very excited about that. And also go to her website too if you're looking for any groups. She has groups for teens, adults. We found out through this interview how integral grandparents are for families and in the community. Go to Instagram to go check out DADennial. We've been putting out some content, a lot of what you're snacking on. You can leave comments below. Please like the Instagram page. Go to the YouTube channel of DADennial. We will have some shorts there, and the interview from last week and this week will be up soon. You can also leave comments there as well. And last but not least, don't forget DADennial.com, DADennial, for people like myself that forget how to spell. You can go there. We have kind of revamped the website, so you can go to the shop page for Father's Day. That's be some shirts. I think there's a coffee mug on there too. Good gifts for DADennial fathers all around. You can also go there to leave your email, and you can subscribe to DADennial. There's also be a blog out too. So please go to DADennial.com. And once again, I want to thank Rebecca Miner. Thank you.